ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am, I guess, the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and the odds couple is back. Scotty Webb, it must be baseball season. We've done some work together with JB and the Vegas Scoreboard Express throughout the season of football, and we've done some talks behind the scenes on baseball. Tomorrow, already 2 games postponed. The East Coast is supposed to get drenched, soaked. But we'll get to that in a second. So first and foremost, a shout out to our proud new sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. I know everyone coming in right now have heard this before, but if you have not downloaded the app, please do. It's free. Head on over to Google Play or wherever you download the apps. Get yourself comfortable, acclimated with the app. It's an amazing app in progress where every day it seems like Zach, Travis, and the rest of the team are adding to this. If you scroll down below, start downloading some of those sports books that are live in your state. Start taking advantage of the promos, the match plays, the boosts, et cetera. And we'll be doing a lot of hands-on work with the WagerWire app as we progress through the rest of 2024 and the Olympics in July, and a lot of big stuff that we're about to announce on this network as well. And if you want to join the WagerWire team, send an email to affiliate@wagerwire.com. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you, Travis, Zach, the rest of this amazing team and community. Follow them all on X, an amazing group. And as Karen Carpenter once sang, we've only just begun. So without further ado, live from Tampa, Mr. Scott E. Webb with the Marlins gear.
Yeah, I figured why not? You know, it's they probably need a little bit of love, and it matched my blue shirt more than anything. So I thought, I'll just wear the Marlins hat today.
What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm this is like you know what? I'm like 56 years old, be 57 this year, and this is like Christmas Eve, man. You know, it's opening day tomorrow. I think it's kind of weird. Opening day tomorrow. Not that it's a date weird. It's weird in a sense that there's not more 1 o'clock games, noon games. You know, there was I think one game at 1 o'clock yesterday and one at I think 2 o'clock, and they're both rained out. So those games aren't going to go. So I think the first game starts at 3, and there's like 4 or 5 games at 4, and then they're evening games. So yeah, it's all this hype and excitement and everything getting ready for the games, and then the games don't even come on until in the afternoon.
Well, it's kind of funny too, because I've seen a lot of bitching, whining, screaming, and hollering about the schedule, and it was funny. They were even talking about tomorrow, the Sweet 16, and someone complaining because there's a 2 games at Boston Garden about 45 minutes from where I am right now. UConn's got the early game. I think they tip off at 7:05 or something. So can you imagine an Eastern basketball game starting at 10 o'clock and everyone's crying and screaming, and they hear you come on and not complain, but state the obvious about the schedule? That means one thing and one thing only. It's back.
There's no question. I mean, I'm excited for it. I think that some of the transactions and some of the teams got better. Some of the teams didn't really do a whole lot. Some of the teams didn't have to do that much. And I think that this is going to be an interesting season. I think that there's there's a lot of hype around some players. We can get into that as we talk about tomorrow's games, but I think that sometimes you got to back up a little bit and yeah, it's good to buy into some of the hype, but when you put your money down on games and stuff like that, you want to make sure that your commodities that you're buying into and the reasons that you're doing stuff have validity to them and make some common sense. So ideally, look, it's baseball. You could say it's anything. It could be poker for all that matter. What you really want to do is make sure that you make a good bet, and hopefully we can teach you how to do that. Hopefully we can talk that through a little bit, and what a good bet is and what a good bet isn't, and then as you make your good bet, one of these lines I wrote down from doing a lot of work. I was sick for a while. I had to have some stuff done to my heart. So I'm healthy now. So I'm happy. I've got a lot of energy, spunk. I'm just driving and everything's good. So in lieu of that, you do a lot of research, you do a lot of studying, and one of the things I wrote down was when you make your bet, right? So the first thing is you got to get the best of the number that you can. You may not get every timing perfectly right, but CLB is important. Not the end all be all, but it's important. And then second, you need to define your edge. So when you make your bet, define your edge on why you made your bet. And then the last part of it that makes total sense that everybody forgets is what, if any, is there any other reason to bet this game? So did a coach mention how he was really working on trying to make sure that the opponents didn't score and the defense was going to play and blah 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 and all this other stuff? So some of that stuff adds up. So when you go and you make your bet, and you have a great number, you can define your edge, right? So when I say define your edge, I'm going to show you how to do EV positive bets, right? If you make 1,000 bets, you're expected to have a positive return on that bet. So I learned a lot, right? And what's really cool about what I'm trying to do, Jeff, is I'm going to use a company's name, and maybe I shouldn't, but I worked. Shouldn't say worked. It's the wrong thing. I downloaded and bought into Unabated for a while, and some other companies, not just Unabated, but some other companies. And I was looking at what they were doing. And what's really cool about what they do is they teach what an EV bet is, but they teach it backwards. They teach it top down, right? So what that means is, you got, I don't know, let's say there's 10 sports books, or maybe you have 15 available to you, and then they show you all of the odds. And then they kind of come up with an average number, and then with that average number of the odds, then they take the VIG out and they do some other stuff, and it becomes an unabated. This is the line, right? So this is the fair, best, most accurate number you can have. After that, then they're going to compare all the sports books to that line and to each other. And then wherever you have an edge, you make that bet. Okay, well, that has nothing to do with anything of the teams, the handicaps, or nothing. But it's a good way to make good bets because you're making the best bet you can, and the market is determining the handicap, okay? But a guy like me, then on the other hand, I do what's called bottom up, right? So bottom up means I'm an originator. You know my WEBBIE odds. You've seen them for years, right? And for I've given you access to them every day, all the time, whenever you want them. You and I are buddies. So when it comes out, right, the way I do WEBBIE odds is a mathematical formula that's based on Team X that maybe have won. I will say they won. Their winning percentage is 550. I'm just making up a number. And then Team B is playing them, and their team winning percentage is, 467. Well, when those two teams meet, there is a mathematical formula that will tell you how many times the team that has a 550 winning percentage should win that game. And I'm just going to make up a number and say it's 57% of the time. So if they come out and they win 57% of the time, well, that's your quote power rating for these teams. And then all of a sudden, now you got to go and say, well, this is baseball. So baseball's directly related to starting pitchers. So then you got to evaluate your starting pitchers. Well, there's no better way than to use sabermetrics to evaluate the starting pitchers. You don't use ERA and wins and losses anymore because those things become very meaningless. So you use a term called WAR, okay? And I know everybody has their things about WAR, but WAR basically is wins above replacement. So how many wins does this guy give his team above a replacement player? What a better way. There is no better way to compare players in terms of what we're looking for. We're looking for wins. What does this guy do to help his team win? So there's companies out there that do this for a living. I don't have to do all this math and all this stuff. It's all done, right? I mean, you just got to get the number. So I go to Fangraphs, I go to Baseball Perspectives, I go to these companies that do this for a living, and they do this over and over and over. So I get these numbers for these pitchers, I put them in the formula, and then all of a sudden you now have adjusted numbers. There's no sports book, there's no VIGs in there, there's no well, you know, the sports book wants to this side to win, so they kind of edge it this way. They're not. This is the number. So WEBBIE odds is exactly that, and you know that it is the number that I think is the most fair, reasonable number you can create based off of what's presented in front of you. So when you create a number that way, now you have bottom up. You can compare that number to what a line that a sports book lists. Then you can apply all the stuff that you learned at Unabated and all these other places, and then you can come up with a new EV positive number that's based off of an origination line, what I do. So the way I look at it, Jeff, is that there's a lot of things that go into this, but the first thing you got to really realize is you need to make EV positive bets, only EV positive bets. All these guys that are out here that have fancy websites on TV doing all these other stuff with great handicaps, great reasonings, great all this stuff about hype and hoopla about players and performance and trends and all this other stuff, that doesn't teach you how to make a good bet. So first and foremost, make a good bet, have a good handicap, because there's got to be a handicap. I'm 56 years old, done this for 30 years, played in the game when I was obviously younger, but played in the game, know kind of a little bit more insight as to what's happening. So you have the experience factor to go with that. So hopefully, as we go do on all these things, this stuff makes sense to people. And what I really would like to say about all of this is, if you come to my website and you come to do and you decide, hey, I want to kind of participate and I want to help you and I want to do this stuff, which is great, because look, man, just like anything else, websites cost money. Websites and the data and all the hours you put into putting into this stuff, it costs money. If you sign up with me, I guarantee you one thing: it won't cost you as much as you go to Unabated. It won't cost you as much as you go to any of these other companies. And in fact, it's a one-time flat fee anymore. It's $150, Jeff. I mean, what more can I do? It's $150. I remember, I don't know if maybe it was 10 years ago. I was working with somebody else at the time. Timmy, I called him Timmy. I don't remember who they were anymore, but man, we were selling stuff for, I don't know, $1,500 was a season, $1,500. And we were getting 20, 30 people to buy into that. Nowadays, it's like pulling teeth to get somebody to give you $150 for crying out loud. Anyway, that's my rant.
Well, again, the game has changed. The times has changed. Social media, again, with all these big platforms, big stages, these blowhards, with 3, 4, 500,000 that are getting paid by the company and doing, 10, 15, 20-legged parlays. They're doing nerfies, yerfies. They're doing mega whale plays, and they've showing their charts and they've lost every day in the month, but it's all fun and entertainment. Where you and we're more about education, we're about win, grin, and profit, and we try to give you reasonings on why we came up with this number, this side. And again, something that you have said to me and every one of our listeners since day one is you want to go to the window with conviction. Hey, this is what I came up with. This is my money. And I hope in 3.5 hours, they come back to cash that ticket. But in baseball, especially, there's more variables. There's pitchers that were supposed to go 5, 6, 7 innings that come out an inning and a third because of a blister. There's errors, there's pass balls, there's wind-blown homers, there's bullpens, there's 10,000 variables that add up to a 9-inning baseball game.
Yeah, there's no question. As a fan, when you watch a game, a lot of times you don't pay attention to certain nuances that happen in a game. But when you have money on a game and you bet a total or you bet a side or you bet whatever you bet, and every little thing matters. I mean, every time a guy gets on base, it matters. You want that guy to get to second base, and you complain because, okay, I got a guy on, first batter's on, and then the next guy comes up and and I don't know, maybe he hits the ball to third base and they throw to second base and they get him out, but you don't get the guy out of first base, so he replaces that guy, but there's one out. And then you sit there and go, well, hell, that was a bad out. Why didn't you move him over to second base? Because then if I got to get on second base, at least I got him in running scoring position. I can drive him in, right? Stuff like that drives you insane watching these baseball games. And it doesn't take the enjoyment out of it. It does create a new way to look at the games. And then, obviously you get the guy that goes out to catch the fly ball to end the game and you win the game. And holy shit, Jeff gets caught in the sun. He can't see it and he loses it. And all of a sudden it falls, 3 inches behind him. And oh my God, I almost hit him in the head. And then all of a sudden you got runners running around the bases and you lose the game. Shit like that happens, man. And you know it. And you sit here and you go, that doesn't really happen. That doesn't happen that often. Man, there's 15 games every day. There's 30 teams, and they all play 162 games, all of them. There's tons of games, and this kind of weird stuff happens in baseball. It's unbelievable how much it happens, but it does. What happens when, Randy Johnson throws the ball and hits a bird? Stuff, crazy stuff, man. It's just crazy stuff.
Already, Mother Nature has canceled Milwaukee and the Mets and Atlanta and Philly, and I'm glad Atlanta and Philly was canceled because I'm a big Strider guy. I am involved in one fantasy team this year. It was an auction draft, and my buddy Rick Thomas, if you're listening, thank you, told me send him a list of about 40 players that I liked. He'd try to, buy a few of them, and then we'd go from there. And I think we ended up with Strider, Roshman and Shohei as the core, and he filled in the blanks from there. So I was super excited there. I'd rather have a game called. We're supposed to get 1 to 3 inches of rain right here in Cape Cod tonight into tomorrow. So again, I hate the start and stops. That's one of my big things. Mother Nature, guys, is undefeated. It's never lost a game. And so when you want to dive into a game where there is rain, you're really dancing with the devil there, because you're coming up with your reasoning most likely based upon the starting pitchers. So if you start the game and you go, let's say 2 innings, and then there's a delay of an hour 15, most likely that pitcher's not coming back. So now you got to rely on the bullpen. I call them the start and stop games. St. Louis Cardinals famous. Let's get an inning in and let's stop it for an hour, or they'll delay it for an hour and a half, and it won't be 1 ounce of rain, and they'll show you the radar. Oh no, there's some big rain coming. And again, we're all creatures of habits here, guys, especially these starting pitchers. You're in a routine that, with 28 minutes, I got to walk out to the bullpen. I got to stretch for 6 minutes. I'm going to warm up for 15, and then I'm going to walk back. Well, if that's delayed 20 minutes, 30 minutes, check the pitchers when they're pitching in those circumstances. Check their first inning ERAs. I end up usually saying 9 out of 10 are not muckers. They don't handle the delay very well. So that's for another story. Anyways, before we get into maybe a couple futures, maybe a couple division winners, maybe a home runs, or if you have anything on the desk or whatever, I have to ask you your thoughts on the Shohei Ohtani and the news that came out, and your initial thoughts, and I don't know, your feelings towards the whole situation.
I think it's weird. That's the number one thing. Um, I don't know a guy like it's hard because that's a culture that I don't know very well. Back when I played, you get to know more about the Hispanic culture, and maybe even today too. I mean, there's more Hispanic culture, but the Oriental culture is coming in. I don't know that culture. I don't know a lot about quote the gambling habits of that culture. So I don't know what interests there are. I don't have any reason not to believe what he said. However, at the same time as that, I don't really believe anything that I guess is put out there right now, right? I mean, how can you sit there and go, this guy stole $4.5 million from me out of my accounts and this and that? I mean, my suspicion would be that he's got managers and people that oversee his money. He's allowed to go do with his money whatever he wants to, but $4.5 million would be a lot of money, even if you got, I don't know, $100 million. $4.5 million being missing, I think would be a red flag. And then I don't know what this guy's relationship was. It seems they were buddies. Now I don't know if it was just a working thing, like he had to have the interpreter there as a working thing, and it was a working arrangement, or if they actually went to nightclubs or games or whatever together. So for me to make a legitimate decision on what I really think, I don't know that I can, but it seems odd that the story doesn't make sense. So usually, we do this all the time, Jeff. You got to take information and make the best guess you can with that information, right? And that's sort of how we make bets sometimes. So in lieu of that statement, my feeling basically is the verbiage used doesn't match the situation in hand, doesn't match common sense. And because of that, I'm very leery of what actually happened or didn't happen. So did he bet on games? I don't know. Did his interpreter guy bet on games through him? I don't know. If he bet on games, though, he's going to follow the same suit as any of the other guys that do, especially, Pete Rose was already out there. So, and they didn't let him back in the game. So Shohei, I'm sorry, buddy, but, it is what it is.
And again, I have no idea. I think back to Michael Jordan, for instance, and most of the people watching and probably would have to Google this. The story with Michael Jordan, he was the face of NBA, who had bad gambling problems. But when you're Michael Jordan, it's okay. You can lose hundreds of thousands on the golf course and come back that night and score 45 and then just go out and do it again. And during the East Coast trips, he'd come to Boston on Friday night, then he'd take a quick little jet over to Atlantic City, meet the team in Philadelphia for the Saturday game, go back to Atlantic City, and then on Sunday he'd end up in New Jersey to face the Nets. But what ended up happening was David Stern, the commissioner, taps Michael on the shoulder and calls him into the office and says basically, hey, Mike, you're the face of the NBA. You are it. The IRS and the feds are coming down hard, and they're coming. We need you to retire from basketball for a year. Go chase the baseball, do whatever you want. When the dust settles, then you come back, and that's what he did. The first report makes the most sense in the world to me. Okay. He signed a $700 million contract, and that doesn't even talk about his endorsements. The guy looks and comes across as a saint. He's our modern day Babe Ruth. He's Godzilla. He's global. I mean, maybe LeBron, maybe Patrick Mahomes, and then Shohei. Maybe Shohei's 3 on the top 3. That's just off the top of my head. My point is, him and the interpreter were like this, okay? $4.5 million is like a C note to you and me for him. So the initial report was, hey, I paid $4.5 million to my buddy's gambling debt. And then they had 24 hours to think about it. And then I think his team and everyone else surrounding him says, you got to get out of this. So then the theft came in. But what's really not being talked about on social media, and don't believe everything you hear or see on social media, is this. California is not a legal state to wager on. You can't wake up in the morning, go to an app, and place a wager. Second of all, you need an act of God to try to place a big wager. So these guys that come on social media, yeah, I bet, hundreds of thousands of dollars a game. Don't believe them, first of all. Second of all, if you want to place $1 million wager, you go to the window, then they call to the office, the guy comes in, and you don't just do it in 30 seconds. Okay? So this sports book in California has already been closed before by the feds. It's already been shut down. So my take on this whole matter is this. They're back open for action. And to take $4.5 million worth of action, you're going to be pretty damn connected, first of all. And second of all, you're going to have a big, big clientele. So if the feds, the IRS, and everyone else come in and cook these books, you try to tell me in the state of California, with all the athletes, with all the superstars, with all the billionaires, millionaires, restaurant owners, successful businesses, actors, actresses, there would be a list a mile long, and it would just probably crush all the sports, Scotty.
Yeah, it's going to require some I would say investigation, but I don't think that's a good word anymore. I think that's an overused word. So it's gonna require some heavy duty lifting by somebody to really figure out what happened and why things are the way they are, and where that money went, and really how it was spent, and whether it was spent in the right way or the wrong way, right? And it is what it is. They may not come up with an answer to this thing for 6 months. Who knows? I don't know. I think that the Dodgers have so much star power. The team is in the right city that it can carry this along in a sense that it's not going to affect the team that much. I was reading something online today that I think Jeff Passan, the ESPN guy, he's drama in himself. Not that he doesn't do good work. He's just drama. But he was trying to make it out that this is going to be held over the Dodgers all year, and they're going to be like the Astros in the sign stealing scandal and all that stuff, and blah blah blah. And all of that may very well be true. It may very well be true. But what I will say though is, you got Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and now you got a catcher that now signed a 10-year contract out there in Smith, and you got guys that can pitch, and you got a team that's full of superstars, and they're going to carry this burden, whatever that burden may be. And they may even just shrug it off and say, this is bullshit anyway. So I don't think you're going to see anything from the Dodgers that will affect their performance.
All right, before we dig into the WEBBIE odds, before we dig into tomorrow's slate, we got a lot of people watching standing room only here. If you guys are new to my channel, please jump on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe, it's free. Turn on the notifications. Never miss a show with me and Scotty. Never miss a show with me, Travis, Zach, Brady, Kannon. We had on for some PGA golf. So this is the place that you want to be there. Scotty, before the opening day and the first pitch, any over-unders, any divisional winners, any Cy Youngs, any Rookie of the Years? It's your platform, your stage to tell the world, my brother.
All right. Well, let me say a couple of things that way. So I'm going to look to my left because this is where I got all that stuff up. So one of the things that I put out was bets to make the playoffs. So I like that bet. Where I bet, I'm not able to make that bet. So when I put out stuff, I don't always have the ability to make the same wager that I would like to make. I'm in Florida, so I have what the Hard Rock has, and I have that's it legally. And then I have overseas accounts that I bet in. So this market that I'm going to tell you, I didn't actually make these bets myself, but I gave them out for people who have access to these. These are from DraftKings, these lines. So these are 3 bets. They're all yes to make the playoffs. So I like the Cincinnati Reds at plus 165 to make the playoffs. Now, I think that they have a good enough, reasonable enough, I should say, it might be a better way to say it, chance to win the division they're in. I like the Cubs to win that division, but that doesn't mean I don't necessarily think the Reds will be right there. I think that whole division might be separated by a total of less than 10 games from top to bottom at the end. So you could have, any sort of order you wanted to with those teams in that division. And I think the Reds have the biggest upside based on the price, because at plus 155, I think if they can get some pitching, which I think should be better this year than was last year, their offense started kicking it in, but they're going to be without a couple guys right off the bat. So McLean's out for right now, and Friedel's out. So those were 2 key guys that were going to help that team. But at plus 155, I don't think that's a bad number. I don't think it's a bad bet, and that's just to make the playoffs. So I kind of like that situation. The other one is the San Francisco Giants. So the San Francisco Giants have made some surprisingly good moves. I mean, signing Matt Chapman was good. Getting Blake Snell was even better. So I like what the Giants are doing. And to make the playoffs, I think that, when you start to think about it, nobody's going to beat the Dodgers in that division, I don't believe. But to think about the National League, you got 2 teams, the Dodgers and the Braves. They're in. So then you got somebody out of the Central who's going to be in. And then nobody else that's going to stand out. Nobody else that's going to be there. So when you start to think about what does that look like, I mean, I think the Phillies are going to be a team that might be right there. They would be the next best team. Maybe they win somewhere around 88 games, 89 games, 87 games. But then the rest of them all kind of fit in that same window between 86 to 83 games. And the Giants are going to be in that spot. And they've got Logan Webb now. They've got a rookie pitcher. I forget what his name is off the top of my head, but they've got a kid who's going to be able to throw real well. I liked what they've done to their lineup. So I think they're going to be competitive in that spot. And at the price of, plus 145, I don't think that was a bad number. And the last one, the third team to make the playoffs, is the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are plus 120 on DraftKings to make the playoffs. So they were minus money to miss the playoffs. So I think a lot of people look at the Rays and go, okay, well, they don't have star power. They don't have pitching this year. They don't have all this other stuff. The truth of the matter is that they won 99 games last year. They're a team that, based off of how they produced and what kind of efficiencies they had, should have won well over 100 games. And they're that way every year. They should win more than they lose. And again, they get more pitching out of everything that you might think. They've got Eflin that's going as their number 1. They've got Savali that's in there. That these are guys that you go and say, well, who in the heck are those guys? Well, the Rays find ways to make these guys better. For example, Jacob Wagasbach. People probably don't know who he is, but he was an Oakland A at one time, and he's made the team and he's in the rotation. He throws 96 miles an hour today, and when they got him, he threw 92. So there's a lot of things that happen there, and I think that the Rays have the most underrated player in all of baseball, Yandy Diaz. If he were to play for anybody else and bat over 300 and drive in the runs he does and score the runs and hit 30 home runs, he would be a superstar. So I like what the Rays have done. I think that they're going to be good. I think Arozarena is going to be fine. I think that team is. I think that team has the ability to get there, and they have a competitive nature about themselves that make them a team that won't go too far into the weeds in the wrong direction. So I like that bet. So season wins, I've got 3 of them listed here. The Washington Nationals, I don't like very well. I've got them under 65.5 wins. I think that's too many. I think they win somewhere near 60 wins, maybe below. I don't really have too many teams below 60 wins, but they're right on the cusp. The problem with the Nationals is that they're not like the Orioles were last year, or like the Reds or the Pirates or some of these teams. They don't have superstar talent coming up. They don't have the Ellie De La Cruz or the O'Neill Cruz or the Brian Hayeses or the Paul Skeens. They don't have those guys. They've got Josiah Gray. He's going to pitch, and they've got the outfielder that everybody was going crazy for. Last name is Wood in spring training. Well, he didn't make the team. He's in the minor leagues. So you've got a lot to go yet with Washington. Doesn't mean that they're not headed in the right direction, but they're going to rely on Corbin again. And when you got Corbin on the mound, that's just not good enough, and their pitchers just aren't good enough. So I don't like them to get over 60 wins. It's right in that neighborhood where I think they should be. 65 too many, 65.5 for sure. So I bet that under. It's minus 115. And there's 2 other bets that I majored, and most of the time when I do season wins, I do under bets, but these are 2 over bets. One of them is the Milwaukee Brewers, and I really like the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee is 77.5 is their number, and go over that number, 77.5. They play in a division, again, with the Reds and the Pirates and the Cubs and the Cardinals, where none of those teams are necessarily so much better than the other ones. They're going to beat each other all up, so they're going to get their wins out of that division. They have an ace kind of pitcher. Now, he hasn't really had to perform in that spot. Freddie Peralta, he's always been behind Burns and Woodruff. But he's got dynamic stuff. And offensively, I think that they have some pieces. They've got a young kid in Churro Jackson that I think is going to be really, really good. So you match them up to some of the things in the win total wise. I think they should be more at that 500 number, which would be 81 wins. And I think that that's really where they'll end up. And that puts them in a spot where I like that over. The last one is the Oakland A's. Everybody piled on the Oakland A's last year, telling me how bad they were and how terrible they are. And they were. They're a terrible team. And they're not necessarily a whole bunch better this year, but they are. They're more seasoned. And seasoning in the major leagues is very helpful. I've got the number was 57.5. They're going to win 60 at least. So I think that they win maybe even 65. I think the Oakland A's are a team that can hit. Now that doesn't necessarily mean anything because of spring training, but in spring training, they were over 500. They hit the ball. They scored a lot of runs. And what people don't realize is that they can actually pitch a little bit. Their bullpen's not terrible. And they took Mason Miller, who was a young kid, 19 years old, 20-year-old kid, blew out his arm, throws 100 miles an hour. He was going to be their guy. And now they made him their closer. Well, don't be surprised if this kid doesn't close 25, 30 games and save those and actually do well. So the back end is a much stronger situation for the Oakland A's. I think that's a team that in a lot of ways is going to go over their number. I think the Colorado Rockies are the worst team, by the way. I think that you could bet them under, but I think a lot of people have already done that. So it's not necessarily much value there. So when it comes to division winners, I think the best way to go, I think the American League East is kind of a tough one because Baltimore won 100 games last year, but they shouldn't have. And what I mean by that is, so if you follow base run standing, and a great way to equate this is sequencing. So you have Pythagorean theorem and base runs. So Pythagorean theorem is just something that comes across and says you scored this many runs, you gave up this many runs, you should have won this many games, just based off of runs and scored and runs allowed. That's a good way to look at things too, based on their overall actual records. But base runs is about sequencing and whether you had good luck with sequencing or bad luck with sequencing. And the best way to say it is say that there's two different teams and 7 events happen, but they all happen in different orders, right? So one team comes up and these 7 events are that the guy gets a home run, then they get 3 walks and then 3 strikeouts, right? Those 7 things happened. Well, that team only scored 1 run. All right, well, the other team comes up and they get 3 walks, a home run, and then 4 strikeouts. Well, that team scored 4 runs. So that team sequencing-wise got lucky. The other team sequencing-wise did not. And base runs accounts for that. And base runs for the Baltimore Orioles last year really accounted them to be a 90-win team, not a 100-win team. So they were lucky last year to get to where they did. My opinion would be is that they probably won't have that same luck this season, and ideally are going to have to earn everything they get. So I don't know that they're necessarily, in my mind, the exact front runner, but I can't put anybody else in front of them except maybe put the Rays up there with them. So I like the idea that you have the Baltimore Orioles at plus 185 to be the division winner. And then you can take the Tampa Bay Rays as a division winner. I already said I like them to make the playoffs. So why not take it that one step farther? Because the price is unbelievable. Plus 550. Now I get it. You got the Yankees and you got the Blue Jays in that same division. But my opinion is that the Yankees are not the team that everybody thinks they are. They're situated to be like the second best team in the American League behind the Astros right now, and I don't think they should be that way. They're a I think 92 type, 91 type win team on projection basis. I don't know that they're going to get there. The Garrett Cole thing is a big deal, and I know they got Juan Soto, but at the same time they got Juan Soto. Think about this: they got Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, and then what else? They don't have anything else. You know, it's not like you run out the Braves that you can line up a whole bunch of different guys, or the Dodgers, you have 3 or 4 or 5 guys. You can't do that with the Yankees. So the Yankees, I don't think, are going to be the team that everybody thinks they are. So I don't think they should be the front runners. So I think that gives both the Orioles and the Rays great hope there. And then secondly, I'm not sure what to do with the Blue Jays. You know, I think the Blue Jays are going to go as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. goes. If he turns in performance where he can be like an MVP kind of guy, then the Blue Jays are going to win. And they're going to win that division. If he doesn't, which he hasn't, then I'm not going to bank on him, so I'm not going to bank on them to do that either. So I like those 2 bets. I also took the Chicago Cubs. I like the Chicago Cubs to win that division. They were plus money, plus 155. And the last one is we talked about the Cincinnati Reds to make the playoffs. You might as well take it that one little step further. They're plus 330, you know, so I don't mind that either. And I don't want to take like the St. Louis Cardinals, you know, who's more like plus 180, well, like just like what the Cubs are. So my opinion basically is that I don't think these are too much of a stretch, and at the same time that they're good value bets. So when you're looking at futures, I think that's kind of what you're looking at doing, is making good value bets. The other thing, I listed MVPs out here. Everywhere I looked online and everything that I've seen online, everybody likes in the American League, the center fielder that plays for the Seattle Mariners. I'm not going there. I think the kid's very streaky. Not that he's not a good player, but I also think that in this day and age, you're going to need to be on a better team. And I don't think that the Mariners are a bad team. I just don't think that offensively he's going to have to carry that load a ton to make MVP. I'm going to go with Houston and Yordan Alvarez as the MVP. He is plus 800. I don't mind that play. He just got to stay healthy. And I think that his numbers will prove to be where they need to be. I think the Astros are a team that people are overlooking, by the way. I think that they're going to get some help. Their pitching is going to start off a little bit sluggish at the beginning, but they'll be fine. But they're going to get help. Verlander's going to come back and he's going to throw. They're going to get some guys coming in that's going to help the Astros pitching, and they're going to have good offense, and they got a good bullpen. So I like the Astros in that division. And in the National League, a lot of people like Shohei Ohtani. A lot of people are in on a lot of different players. But I think if you're going to look at it, Mookie Betts is the guy in the National League. I mean, he's going to be the guy that stirs the pot for that team. If that team goes on that has success, he's going to be one of the main reasons. Sure, Ohtani's going to be driving him in with Freddie Freeman, but he's got to be the table setter and he's got to get on base. So I think you're going to see a big year from Mookie Betts. When it comes to the Cy Young, Garrett Cole is the best pitcher in the American League. He's not going to pitch for 3 months, so you can't bet on him. So then a lot of people say, okay, well, let's go with Corbin Burns with Baltimore. And I don't think that's the right way to go either. I think Corbin Burns has lost a step. That doesn't mean I don't think he's a good pitcher, and it doesn't mean I don't think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But I would rate him probably in the top 15, not the top 5. And when you're talking about Cy Young, we're talking at the end of the season. These are going to be guys that are top 5 type guys. So I think there's been a lot of improvements made on some of these teams, and I think the Detroit Tigers have made a big improvement on a lot of things. And Tariq Skubal is back. He was not healthy. Had Tommy John, came back. Didn't necessarily start off great at the beginning when he first came back, but did some things. And now they've made a pitching adjustment to him. And I think Tariq Skubal is going to be the best pitcher in the American League. And I think he wins the Cy Young. His number is plus 900. And in the National League, I think there's only one guy. Jeff mentioned it before a little bit. It's Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider is the best pitcher in the National League. And I know you can throw a lot of different guys up there. And a lot of people like to throw Zach Wheeler up there, who obviously they were going to face each other tomorrow. But maybe that's going to go Friday now. But here's the main thing about Strider. Strider is dominant in most games, and that was without a curveball. That was based on what he did last year. So last year he made 32 starts. In those 32 starts, the Atlanta Braves won 26 times. I mean, it's amazing. And the same number of starts Zach Wheeler made for the Phillies only won 19 times. Big difference, huge difference. Like if they're in the same division, that's a 7-game difference in the won-loss column, just in that one factor of those two pitchers and how big of a gap there is. I'm going to suggest that gap might be even a little bit larger this year, in a sense that I think that Strider is that much better. Now, I don't have anything other than Rookie of the Year. Now, I didn't do home runs and stuff like that. But I think the Rookie of the Year market's interesting because there's a lot of guys that are out there. And it's a Texas Wyatt guy that everybody's all over because he had 6 home runs in spring training and stuff. I think that's great. I mean, he's one of the very youngest players in terms of games played to make the major leagues. I think it's something like 45 games he played in the minor leagues, and now he's all of a sudden in the major leagues. Wyatt Langford's his name. I think he's a great player, but I think he's going to have to carry a big burden in terms of RBIs and runs and things like that to actually win the MVP or Rookie of the Year. I'm sorry. But I think a guy like Evan Carter, same team, I think has a better chance because he played in the playoffs last year, got to see at-bats, got to do a lot of stuff. And one of the things about Evan Carter that I think is overlooked is this kid batted, I think, 3rd or 4th for them in the playoffs. And people didn't even know who he was. And the reality is he's got such a keen sense of the strike zone. He's very good at knowing what to swing at and what not to, that he's not going to fall into those long seasonal slumps that people get. So I think that's a very valuable asset to him. He is plus 210 to be Rookie of the Year. And then in the National League, I think there's a lot of favorites out there. I didn't really go with a big time favorite, or at least I didn't think it was, but maybe it is. I like the Giants, and I think that the Giants are a team that will get credit for a rookie this year, even though he actually played in Japan. It's Jung-Hoo Lee. Jung-Hoo Lee is an outfielder that's going to bat leadoff. And if you want to make an impact on a team, bat leadoff. So he's going to score a lot of runs. He's going to make plays in the outfield. He's going to steal bases. All he has to do is hit for average, and he's going to be in the mix for Rookie of the Year. So when it comes to what I've done in regards to those kinds of things, that's it. I don't have any other futures bets made, and I saw some stuff out there earlier today online where people are doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm just going to tell you the futures market is two things. One, it ties up your money for 8 months, and two, the beauty of it though is it kind of gives you options towards the end of, okay, well, this guy could win or this guy could do this, and so I can do a couple other things maybe betting wise that helps your portfolio. But at the same time, I think that if you just control what you're doing, and then you don't get yourself in a spot where you got what I just rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 4. I just rattled off 16 bets. If you could easily double that, and you got 30 some bets out there for your season total bets here that take 8 months. So I think that's a hard way to go to beat this market. And then, you got to have a lot of things happen right. People don't get hurt, and people don't have this injury or that injury, or, you got to hope Yordan Alvarez, for example, if you bet on him, stays healthy the whole time, and, all that stuff. So I think that's a lot of bets. And I think if you made 30 bets, which I saw a lot of people doing, a tons of overs and unders and totals and things. And I think that they evaluate things wrong, right? Like, so at the beginning of this whole show, I was talking about with Jeff that there was a player that I think is a lot of hype, and that player is Cole Ragans. Now, Cole Ragans is a pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, and you know how many people I've seen select him as going to be the Cy Young Award winner for the American League. There's been a lot, and I get it. Cole Ragans has good stuff, but what I wanted to share is a couple of things, and let me just close this window on my computer for 1 second, because it's up on this other one, and I wanted to share. If you go to Fangraphs and you go to Fangraphs Streamer, which is a projection system, and it projects pitchers and hitters and all this stuff in terms of WAR, but other metrics too. But when you're comparing pitcher to pitcher or people to people, that's kind of the terminology to use is WAR. He has a 2.6 WAR, Cole Ragans. Now, if you want to be the Cy Young and you want to be that guy, right? 2.6 WAR is better than average, but that's all it is. It's better than average. If you're an all-star pitcher, you're going to be in the 3 range somewhere. If you're a dominant pitcher, you'll be in the 4 range, and if you're a Cy Young guy, you're going to be in the high 4s or 5s. He's not there. He's pitching on Thursday or tomorrow. He's pitching against the Minnesota Twins. He's pitching against Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez has pitched a couple of years. He pitched for these Miami Marlins, and now he pitches for the Twins. If I switch my team over here and I go to the Minnesota Twins and I look at the Minnesota Twins, the reason I bring this up is because I want to make sure that people understand what they're betting. And Pablo Lopez is a 4.1 WAR pitcher projection for streaming. Cole Ragans is a 2.6. What does that mean? Well, that means that Pablo Lopez is a top 10 pitcher and Cole Ragans isn't. Now, could it turn out to be at the end of the season where things change and these numbers move and stuff happens? Sure, it can. But Cole Raggins has to get there, and he has to kind of earn those numbers before you give it to him. So when you make a number, say, for tomorrow, and you see the Minnesota Twins at minus 115 or minus 112 or whatever, maybe even minus 120. All these books are very different with that number. And they're in Kansas City. You got to keep this in mind, right? So Kansas City is projected to be a team that's below 500, 78 wins, say 77 wins, something like that. The Minnesota Twins are expected to win the division. They're going to win 85 or more games. So they're a better team. And they have a better pitcher tomorrow. And they have a better bullpen than what the Royals have. So this game is mispriced at minus 112, which is what I bet it at for the Minnesota Twins. I'm going to suggest that if you want to make a play tomorrow and you want to bet it, the WEBBIE odds says this game should be, which is my numbers, it should be one. It should be more like I have it at 170. I have Minnesota minus 170, and you can get them at minus 112, 115, 120. So I think that's a very mispriced game for tomorrow's wagers. The other ones you might want to look at that I think are sort of mispriced. You can't bet it tomorrow. You have to wait till Friday now. I think the Atlanta Braves are mispriced in Philadelphia. I think the number was 125. You could have bet the Braves at minus 125. My number is 139, 140. So I think that's a mispricing. I think Strider and Strider's 8-0 against the Phillies. Now he did lose, I think, in the playoffs once to them, but he's 8-0 against the Phillies in the regular season, dominating too. I mean, Harper's the only one on the Phillies that hits him. So I like the Braves to do well with Strider in that game. And another one, even though it's a little bit of a number, I have Cincinnati Reds at minus 182 at home tomorrow against the Nationals, and you can only pay 150. So I don't sit here and tell people to go out there and spend 150s and 180s and 160s unless there's really a good reason to. In this case, I think you have a good reason to be on the Cincinnati Reds tomorrow. But I would also tell you to wait because I saw the line at 155 and then 150, and you might be able to get 145 tomorrow. So I like that opportunity. And the last one I like is the San Francisco Giants. If you got it right at the very beginning, you got San Francisco at either even money or plus 105 or whatever. I bet them today at minus 102. They're playing the Padres. This will be the second start for Yu Darvish. Yu Darvish pitched very well in his first start. His game score was a 63 in that game. And as you'll hear me talk over the course of time of being on Jeff's show and so forth, I use game score a lot. And 60 is a great performance. So I do not expect him to pitch another 60, which means he won't pitch as well as he did the time before, which means he's going to be more hittable than he was. Does that mean he's going to go out there and bomb? Not necessarily, but it does mean that he'll be more average than he was the first time that he pitched. And they're going to face Logan Webb, and Logan Webb has been pretty dominant against the Padres. So I like the Giants in that spot. I think the Giants really should be a small favorite, and they're not. So I'm good with that. Good with those two. So there's a couple of plays for tomorrow, and then what I did in terms of your season wins. And I guess the last thing maybe to talk about is Jeff had mentioned weather. And what I wanted to pull up, I wrote an article about weather not too long ago and put it on the website. It's very important to understand, especially in the beginning part of the season, that temperature matters. And temperature matters because of the density of the air. And I'm not going to get into all this meteorology stuff because that's immaterial. But I will share this. If the temperature is less than 40 degrees, the slugging percentage is 383, the ISO rate's 132, and the home runs per at bat is 0.23. It's very minimal. Those are very small numbers. And if it's between 40 and 49, it goes up very minimally. So it's 0.389 slugging, 0.134 ISO, and 0.024 home runs to at bats. So you can expect less run scoring when it's cold. When it's hot in the middle of summertime, for example, those numbers go crazy. If it's plus 90 degrees, the number changes. Slugging percentage 445, ISO rates 169, and home runs is 0.34 per at bat. So it goes way up. So the air is thinner, the ball travels farther. That's really the dynamics behind some of that stuff. And the average run scored is another one that kind of comes into play, not just the batting dynamics, but if it's less than 40 degrees out, the average runs in a baseball game is 4 or less. If it gets, to say 45, 50, I shouldn't say 4 or less for each team. So you're talking 7 is a total is kind of the number. And you're talking as it gets into the 90s, 5 runs per team. So you're getting way up there. So there's a big difference in terms of how the weather affects these games. And then I did a little bit more research and a couple other things with that. And one of them, it has to do with the body and how the body reacts and how muscles react and how your joints work in the cold weather. And obviously they're just not as good. So a pitcher, for example, who throws, well, let's just say he throws 95 miles an hour, in the cold weather, it may throw 93. And that may not seem significant, but if you look at a pitcher who throws 95 miles an hour, or a ball thrown 95 miles an hour, what's the batting average on that ball versus the batting average on a ball that's thrown at 93 miles an hour? There's a significant difference. It's easier to hit lower velocity than it is higher velocity. So that's why major league pitchers now throw 95, 96, 98, 100 miles an hour, every single one of them virtually, is because it's hard to hit. And then the out pitch is the slider. The pitch that gets people out is the one that's thrown at 91 and moves the way a slider moves. And don't think these pitches come in, when somebody says it's a fastball, that it's a straight pitch. That ball may move 12 inches. It may sink a little too, but it's going to go side to side. It's going to go up and down. It moves. So these pitchers are very difficult to hit. We're in an age of baseball where these players are unbelievable. And I said it to Jeff last year, and I'll say it again this year. Last year there were, I made the comment, how many pitches do you think were thrown over 100 miles an hour? Well, most people are going to go, well, probably a few here and there and blah, blah. No, it's 3,000. I mean, there's 3,000 pitches thrown over 100 miles an hour. And you're expected to hit that. And you know what? They do. They go up there and they hit those balls. And these guys are unbelievable in today's game. And I'm just glad that some things are working out to the degree in which you can see them perform. You get to see a lot of things. So anyway, when it comes to those bets, when it comes to those things, I go back to my EV Plus stuff. Look, my website and the things that I do will create EV Plus wagers. I just gave you a couple for tomorrow. Just as an advertisement thing, whatever. Look, I could use some support. Go to the website, I guess it's 3 W's, right? www.mlb-daily.com, and click and sign up, or just go there and learn. I try to put as much stuff out there as I possibly can on the players, on betting, on things you're supposed to be looking for, on the dynamics of what sabermetrics can do. And that's what I use. All that stuff is all sabermetrics. You know what's interesting is it's getting so developed now that sabermetrics can tell you a ton, like a ton of stuff. And we're using pitch plus, pitcher plus this year and stuff plus this year. And the reason for that is you can then evaluate pitchers from a stance of, do they have good stuff? In other words, does the ball move? Does it move vertically? Does it move horizontally? What's the velocity? All that stuff. And then you also have the idea too that you have a thing called Pitcher Plus, which takes all the stuff plus and adds location to it. So then you can when you do your handicap, you can go, well, Quintana's pitching tomorrow. He's a soft tosser, doesn't throw that hard. His stuff's not that good, but he needs to rely 100% on his location. If location's off, it's going to get hit. So you can take that one step farther and go, well, can Milwaukee take advantage of that? Well, tomorrow's rain out, so you're not going to get that look. The next day you might. And my opinion would be is they're going to be able to take advantage of that. Anyway, points being.
Again, myself and Scott have been tied at the hip for a long, long time now. Met Scott a handful of years ago. He's been working independently for a long, long time. And myself and Scott, the odds couple, as you will see throughout baseball and into football, do a lot of work together. Our goal simply will be to bring Scott on. He talks about his WEBBIE odds. Fascinating. And he said is $150 for the full season. There's 162 games per team per season. So you're technically getting all his work for less than $1 a game. Okay, so crazy not to just jump on board. Introduce yourself. Ask him some questions. He's always there to answer. Played in the bigs, played in the game. His claim to fame is he threw out Ken Griffey Jr. And for you guys that don't know Ken Griffey Jr., go and Google him. He was probably one of the greatest swings in the history of MLB. But myself and Scott will be on a couple times a week. And if schedules fit, we used to do the breakfast bankroll together. We used to do the closing bell together. Work and life get in the way, unfortunately, but we're going to do our best to be on a handful of times a week. Go on over on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it. Go follow him at WEBBIE20MLB. If you're not following myself, obviously go to EC Sports Invest. Go check out his website. Introduce yourself. Follow him. Send him a DM. Say, hey, I'm new to baseball. Can you help me out? And again, for $1 a game. And again, it's a 6-month marathon. So if you come out of the gates 20-4, God bless you. If you come out of the gates 4-20, well, there's still plenty of time to work. It's baseball. And remember this, people. There's no crying in baseball, okay? Just remember that. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one, the only Mr. Scotty Webb at WEBBIE20MLB. We wish everyone a blessed day. Don't forget, keep an eye on the East Coast games, guys. The weather is brutal. Get up in the morning. Check your favorite websites. Check social media. Check myself. Check Scotty. See if there's any more games canceled. Again, Mets hosting Milwaukee and Phillies hosting Atlanta have already been scratched. Day baseball. Yep.
My understanding may be that the Orioles game tomorrow will push back. Might not start on time, but it will play.
There you go. And I can tell you, anyone locally here, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Boston, Mass, get the galoshes. They're saying anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain. And the Red Sox are on tomorrow night at 10 o'clock in Seattle. So that ought to be a good game. Again, everyone have a great day. It's been an amazing day here. We started the morning off with Travis Geiger from Wager Wire. We had a late afternoon with Brady Kannon, a Las Vegas golfer, and of course, Sports Grid. And now we close with Scotty Webb. So we covered the gamut. Be a dark day here tomorrow. Might do a closing bell late with Riley. Sweet 16 starts tomorrow. Go Huskies in TD Garden or at TD Garden as they are facing San Diego State in a rematch of last year's championship game. Currently, UConn -11. And then, of course, Friday, I might actually reach out to Scotty Friday. I might have some early morning availability. We can talk what happened on Thursday, talk a little about what's going on Friday. So, everyone, have a great, great day, great evening. Again, if you haven't been over to YouTube, just jump on over there. It'll take you 1 second. East Coast Sports Investors, subscribe. It's free, and just turn on those notifications. See you soon.